I just had to play some OJ's, some Love Train. I just had to play some Love Train just to calm myself down, you know. I have to calm myself down. I have to watch what I say, because I'm far from politically correct. So I have to calm myself down so I can watch what I say. Anyway, good morning. See y'all here. Good morning, Kevin. Good to see you, buddy. Hadn't heard from Kevin in a long time. Good brother there from my hometown. You know, I was just sitting here this morning kind of, I just kind of meditating a little bit on what I wanted to talk about, and I just, scrolling down Facebook, and I saw this video, and many of you know me, you know how I feel about Donald Trump. You know, y'all, I don't defend him at all, period. But this ain't got nothing to do with him, period. He just happens to be in the video. And the video was of him and a black lady looking like he's refusing to shake the black lady's hand. And I said, man. I said, well, don't surprise me, but just let me check into it. So I did some little searching to try to see the whole video clip, because it's hard to interpret anything by looking at a small video clip. So I went and found the rest of the video clip where it looked like he was ignoring this black lady, not shaking her hand. And in the entire video clip, before that part, she gives somebody her phone and she takes a picture with him, both of them hugging each other. So he had already taken a picture with this black lady. They hugging each other and everything. He was through with her. So after he stopped taking the picture with her, then he started turning around shaking everybody else's hand. And she was reaching, looked like she was trying to shake his hand, but she was reaching, trying to get her phone. But while she was reaching to try to get her phone, he was shaking everybody's hand around her, and the media made it look like he was ignoring her and refusing to shake the hand of a black lady, when that was not the case at all. He had already taken a picture with her, had already hugged her, and everything. He was shaking everybody. He was acknowledging everybody else. Now, that made me stop and think about all the things that go on in society in which politicians, the media, these fake civil rights leaders and everybody, it makes me think about every scenario that comes up to where they want to keep us divided. And you got to think about this. These politicians, these crooked politicians, these evil, fake civil rights leaders, the media, you have to ask yourself a question: what do they get out of seeing you and I divided? What do they get out of that? And how does it benefit them? Because, see, they have to get something out of it, and it has to benefit them, or else they wouldn't keep doing it. And that really bothered me this morning, that they would take that video clip of Donald Trump and this black lady, an innocent video clip of these people being at the hospital, these people in Las Vegas who have had a tragic event, an innocent video clip to try to make it look like this white guy and this black guy, this white guy don't like this black guy, in order to make you and me mad at each other, in order to make me and you believe that every time we turn around, there's some type of activity going on in which a black person doesn't like a white person, or a white person doesn't like a black person, or vice versa. They are trying to keep us angry, y'all. They are trying to keep me and you divided, because they know if we ever unite together as Americans, they'll be in a lot of trouble. Okay. Many of the civil rights leaders who promote these black and white race issues every time something happens know that if you and I ever figure it out and come together and unify, they will be in a lot of trouble. They know that they will lose a lot of the money that they're getting. You see, what we fail to understand is that the news media, the politicians, and some of these fake civil rights leaders, the way they make their money is to keep chaos in front of us. is to make us feel like we need them, to make all of us feel like that we have something against somebody else and we need some type of retribution, and they are the ones there to fight our battles for us. As long as they can keep a battle in front of us that we think need to be fought, and they can be the ones fight it for us, then they can continue to get paid. Think about it. If the news media promoted more stories of good things happening than bad things happening, they wouldn't get a lot of business. They wouldn't get a lot of ratings. And the reason why is because they know that human nature kind of gravitates to chaos. Human nature kind of gravitates to things that are bad. You ask yourself this question: how often have you heard rumors go around of people doing good things? And then ask yourself the question: how often have you heard rumors going around of people doing bad things? Let me tell you something. A person can do 100 good things and you'll never hear a rumor about it. You may hear a rumor about one of them, but if they did one bad thing, I guarantee you everybody in the city, in the county, and probably most people in the state will hear about it. It's just the way it is. And so these people believe that if they can keep some of the black people out there from liking some of the white people out there, and some of the white people out there from liking some of the black people out there, if they can just keep us divided from each other, then they have won the battle. They have succeeded in accomplishing what they're trying to accomplish. Hey, Mom. And that's why I despise those people. I'm telling you, I despise politicians who want to keep us divided. I despise civil rights leaders who want to keep us divided. Because, see, every issue that happens between a black person and a white person is not about race, but they make it about race every time. I mean, can it ever be about two people that just simply have a problem with each other at that moment? Can it ever be about somebody that did something wrong, or somebody that did something right, or somebody that tried to hurt somebody and somebody who got in? Can it ever be about that? Why does it always have to be about black and white when it comes to our society? And if we don't watch ourselves, we fall right into it. Yet, many of us who claim to be Christians, we're more pro-black than pro-Christian. We're more pro-white than pro-Christians. We're more pro-Republican than pro-Christian. We're more pro-Democrat than pro-Christians. We are everything that God wants us to be. Why? Because we get caught up in that trap of being divided. We get caught up in that trap of joining the evil movement of our society, looking at everything from a perspective of black and white, rich and poor, tall and short, fat and skinny. Instead of looking at things from the perspective that God wants us to look at things, and then we lose sight of our ultimate goal here on earth, and that is to try to get to heaven and try to help everybody get to heaven with us. Man, let me tell you something. If you're watching this morning, you happen to be a white person, I am not on your side. If you're watching this morning, you have to be a black person, I am not on your side. If you're watching this morning, you happen to be a Chinese person, I am not on your side. If you're watching this morning, you have to be a Mexican, I'm not on your side. But if you're watching this morning and you happen to be a person who just wants to try to do the right thing, I am on your side. I don't care who you are. And as Christians, that should be the way that we look at life. We should not approach life trying to figure out the right or the wrong based upon who did it, but we should approach your life trying to figure out the right or the wrong based upon what was done. And I realize that in our society, that's hard to do. Because as human beings, we can be distracted. We can be distracted by the foolishness that goes on around us. Good morning, Sister Deborah. We turn on the television and we hear this. We got our special program. Those people who watch MSNBC, CBS, ABC, CNN, they have their perspectives. Those people who watch Fox News, they have their perspectives. Those people who watch BET, they have their perspective. Those people who watch MTV, they have their perspective. Those people who watch this, they have their perspective. And so, as much as we want to try to have a clear mind, we're surrounded by all of these different influences that are pulling us in so many directions. We turn on CNN and we see this was a racist action. We turn on Fox News and we say it wasn't racist. We turn on this show and it says it was racist. We turn on this show and we says it wasn't racist. And our minds are pulled, and instead of us stepping away from the foolishness and thinking like God wants us to think, we fall into this activity, this way of thinking, and we begin to divide ourselves from our fellow man, and we don't even realize we're doing it. I've got some friends right now on Facebook. I don't even think they realize what they're doing to their friends. I don't even think they care. But I've got some friends on Facebook, white and black, who post that they have the right to post because it's their page. And it's about standing up for a race or a color or whatever the case may be. And innocently, they are trying to shed light on a conversation, but at the same time, they don't even realize that their friends that they do have who may not be of the same race or may not be of the same whatever, they're pushing them away, and they're dividing themselves from those people. And like I said, they may not care, and that's fine. That's fine. But when something happens in society, I don't approach it. When something happens in society, I don't approach it by saying, you know what, this white guy over here or this black guy over here, I don't approach it like that. I approach it by saying, you know, this gentleman right here was wrong. This gentleman right here was right. Or this lady right here, she was wrong. Or this lady right here, she was right. I mean, what does skin color have to do with right or wrong? Nothing. Skin color only can provide you with a motive if you know the reason something happened. A white person kills a black person. Do you know the motive? No. Do you know the motive? Yes, he killed him because he didn't like black people. Okay, we found a scenario where a white person kills a black person because he didn't like the color of his skin. We found the motive. Okay, now what? Now what? Do we continue to label all white people like this idiot right here? What have we accomplished just because we found the motive of one situation? The wrong has still been committed. The justice is not going to be found in the motive. The justice is going to be found in the consequences and punishment for what is done. I don't care if this guy killed somebody because he was black or killed somebody because he was white. He killed somebody. That is the problem. Our kids are learning this foolishness in schools. They're looking at their classmates based upon their skin colors, and every action that's shown within their school, they're interpreting based upon a person don't like them because of the color of their skin, or because of where they came from, or because of how they look, or how much money they have, or whatever the case may be. We are destroying the confidence and the future of our children because we are raising them to think foolishness. Let me ask you this right here. So what a person don't like you because you're white? Or so what a person doesn't like you because you're black? Or so what a person doesn't like you because you're Mexican? Or so what a person doesn't like you because you this or because you... So what? Do you live your life based upon what people think about you? Or based upon what you think about yourself? So what if we find a white person who kills a black person because of the color of their skin? So what? What does that accomplish? Nothing. You know what's going to accomplish something? If we take that person and punish them to the extent of the law, only then will we have achieved what needs to be achieved. So what if we found a black person who kills a cop because he doesn't like cops? So what if that's the reason that this black person kills the cop? What have you accomplished to find the motive? Nothing. What we accomplish is in giving out the necessary punishment for bad behavior. The problem in our society is not black people and white people. The problem in our society is not Americans hating Mexicans. The problem in our society is none of those things. The problem in our society is not racism. The problem in our society is evil. The problem in our society is sin. And from a Christian's perspective, that's how we look at it. The problem in our society is not homosexuality. The problem in our society is not abortion. The problem in our society is not lying or stealing or cheating or killing. Those are not the problems in our society. The problem in our society is sin and evil, and those things are products of that. The true problem in our society is a breakdown of the home, a breakdown of the family. The true problem in our society is these fruitcakes, these politicians, these civil rights leaders, the media and everybody else who are focusing on things that are not the problem could be doing more to focus on where the problem is actually occurring. And that is in the home, a breakdown in the home. Families are not united. Families are broken. Husbands are leaving wives. Wives are leaving husbands. Children are not taught the value of human life. Children are not taught the value of integrity and the value of honesty. Children are not taught the value of life and the preciousness of life. Children are not taught to look at people by the character instead of the content of the character, instead of the color of their skin. The breakdown is in the home. It has nothing to do with racism. It has nothing to do with any of those things. It has something to do with we have left the fundamental basis of what a society is built upon, and that is strong families. And as Christians, we should be giving more of our time and attention to try to build strong families. As Christians, we should be giving more time and attention to try to teach our children and not to look at people by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. We should be teaching our children to judge things based upon right and wrong, not based upon who did it. Because when we analyze things based upon who did it, then you're always going to lean toward the person that you like. You're always going to lean toward the person that you care about the most. But when you look at things from the perspective of what's right and what's wrong, then you may find yourselves a lot of time leaning toward the opposite side of the fence. And you may find yourself at odds with your fellow friends. You know, I don't care who gets mad at me. I'm going to say this once again. I don't care who gets mad at me. If you are watching this video and you are a white person, I am not on your side. If you're a black person, I am not on your side. Mexican, I'm not on your side. But if you are a person who is trying to live right and do the right thing, I am on your side. I'm on your side. You want to be pro-white, you go right ahead and be pro-white. You want to be pro-black, go right ahead and be pro-black. You want to be pro-Mexican, go right ahead and be pro-Mexican. But there ain't going to be no pro-blacks in heaven. Ain't going to be no pro-whites in heaven. Ain't going to be no pro-Chinese or pro-Mexicans in heaven. The only thing that's going to be in heaven are people who have been saved by the blood of Jesus, and that's it. That's it. And we have got to stop letting these people divide us. We got to stop letting these people divide us. I'm so thankful that I was raised in a home to where I have not been contaminated in my thinking. if you just do a search on the internet of crime in the United States, do a search in the internet of crime in the United States. Exactly right. Exactly right, Heslin. Exactly right. You know, and Deborah, you're right too. But you know, in our homes, we got to stop talking about we're raising strong young black men, and we're raising strong young white men, or strong young whatever. You should be trying to raise strong young Christian men who happen to be black, strong young Christian men who happen to be white, or whatever. You should be raising strong young men. You shouldn't be raising strong young whatever kind of girls you want to classify. You should be raising strong young Christian ladies. Jesus came to unite us. The devil has come to divide us. Do you know one of the reasons the Old Testament law was taken out of the way? Not only because it could not provide salvation, but it was taken out of the way because it was the very thing that divided the Jew from the Gentile. It was a wall, a partition between them, and that is not something that God wanted to last permanently. And so in Ephesians chapter 2, he talks to these Gentiles about them being separated from the Jew. And in verse number 14, he says, but when Jesus came along, who is our peace, he has made us both one, Ephesians 2:14, and he has broken down the middle wall of separation. The middle wall of separation, to make in himself of two one new man, and so making peace. I love this quote by one of our members here, Sarah Beth. And she said, God does not want us to be peace prayers, but peacemakers. You see, one of them is just the thought, peace prayer. One of them, it takes action, a peacemaker. Whatever happened to the concept of the Beatitudes, where we as followers of God are supposed to be peacemakers? We're not peacemakers when we start taking sides. We're peacemakers when we start bringing balance to the conversation. We're peacemakers when we start bringing light to the conversation. Man, we have missed it so much in Christianity. Christianity is not just going to some church somewhere, worshiping on Sunday, and then taking sides Monday through Saturday. We can fight for a cause. We can fight for a cause, and I even disagree with this. I read an article online. A minister said that Christians should not be fighting for causes. I disagree with that. I disagree with the fact that Christians should not fight for a cause. I think there's a way to fight for a cause. I would never ever stop fighting for the fact that children are being aborted in our country every day. I never stop fighting for them. But there's a way to do it. There's a way to fight for a cause. The way we fight for causes as Christians is different from the way that people of the world fight for a cause. It's different. When we fight for causes as Christians, we bring God to the conversation. We bring Scripture to the conversation. We don't bring race to the conversation. We don't bring sexual orientation to the conversation, or all these other things that people divide us on. Let me tell you something. If I got a person standing beside me of a different race, different sex, gender, it doesn't matter. If we all standing for the same thing that's right, then we should stand together. I don't want to stand with someone just because they're the same color, or they're the same, same religion, or the same sex, or come from the same state I came from, or the same community. I want to stand with someone who wants to stand for what's right. And right is right, not because of skin color. Right is right because it's right. Wrong is wrong, not because of skin color. Wrong is wrong because it's wrong. And as Christians, that's the way we got to look at it. We are losing our Christianity. Individually, we are losing our Christianity because we are falling into the masses and the way they think. And we begin to divide ourselves and we don't even see it. And the good that we could do for Christ, we never do it because we've lost focus. We've lost focus. Let me give you an example. And in this example that I'm getting ready to give you, I am not going to interpret what I believe happened, who's right or who's wrong. I have my opinions about everything that happens. But let's take the Trayvon Martin situation with him and that Mexican guy. Let's take that example. Once again, I'm not interpreting who's right or who's wrong. I have my opinion about it. And if you want to know my opinion, then you can just inbox me. Because I ain't trying to open up new wounds. But in the Trayvon Martin and this other guy's incident, as soon as it happened, y'all, the first thing that started to be said was, it's a white guy, black guy. You know how a Christian should approach something like that? A Christian should never approach a Trayvon Martin situation as black and white. A Christian should approach a Trayvon Martin situation as right or wrong. Okay, let me see what happened. Oh, this guy here is, if you believe that that white guy, the Mexican guy, if you believe that guy was wrong, you should say, this guy here is wrong. He did this guy wrong. He never should have did this. He never should have did. That is wrong. It is wrong to do anybody like that. That's the way, as a Christian, your conversation should go. If you're going to try to help people. But as soon as your conversation goes from this gentleman or this individual should not have done this to this white guy, you've just lost the battle for God and won the battle for Satan. On the other side, if you believe Trayvon Martin was wrong, as a Christian, you should approach it this way. This young man here was wrong. This young man here shouldn't have done this. This young man here shouldn't have done that. This young man, or whatever it is. But the moment you move from this young man to this black guy, this young man to this teenager, this young man to this, the moment you move from young man to race, that's the moment you lose the battle for God and win the battle for Satan. You see what I mean? That is a way as a Christian to do anything. There's a way as a Christian to say anything without putting ourselves in the category of those who wish to divide us. I watched a video one time of many of you probably saw this video of an officer up in South Carolina. This guy was running. Watch how I describe this to you. Watch closely how I describe this to you. This video, and it may have happened about a year or two ago, this officer was running through the park, and there was a guy running in front of him. And this guy that was running in front of him was like 20, 30 feet in front of him, and the police officer just shot him in the back. Now, regardless to what happened previously, the officer was not in imminent danger because the threat was running away from him. Seemed like to me, in my opinion, he could have called backup. Seemed like to me he could have waited on someone else to get there to help him. But he did. He just hauled off and shot the guy in the back. In my opinion, that officer was wrong for what he did. That's my opinion. in my opinion, that officer was wrong for what he did. Now, do you see how I describe that? I describe an officer who pursued a gentleman, shot that guy in the back, and I believe that officer was wrong. But do you know how we fall prey to Satan's tactics? When we change the conversation from officer to white man. When we change the conversation from gentleman to black guy. We have then lost the battle for God and won the battle for Satan. As Christians, the way we approach conversations is different from the way the world approaches conversations. Now, if you want to talk motive, let's talk motive. But there is no way for me to know what this officer's motives was when he shot that guy unless that guy tells me. Unless I find out some way, somehow, that this officer did not like black people, there's no way for me to know his motives. So what's the point of that conversation right now? All we know is that this guy shot somebody in their back running away. That's all that should matter. And in my opinion, that officer was wrong. The officer wasn't wrong because he was white and because that guy was black. The officer wasn't wrong because he was a police and that guy was not a police. The officer was wrong because, in my opinion, the threat was moving away from him and he shot someone in their back. That's my opinion. But see, I'm not here talking about the right or the wrong and what the officer did. I'm describing to you the way, as a Christian, we approach the conversation. That's what I'm describing to you, the way we approach the conversation. Cindy said the South Carolina incidents were horrible and charges were promptly brought against the officer and he was found guilty, I think. And that's the way, and thank you for providing that information, Cindy. And that's the way I think it should have turned out. But you notice how I approached that conversation as a Christian. I didn't talk about that incident as the officer being white and as that guy being black. As a Christian, I approached the conversation by saying officer and gentleman, not white guy and black guy. Officer and gentleman. Why? Because my conversation as a Christian should be one that brings unity to a conversation and not one that brings division. And the moment that I start using pejorative terms that bias everybody from the conversation, that's the moment I lose the speech that Christ wants me to have. The moment that we get into all of this race and this skin color and all that kind of stuff, that's the moment we lose the conversation that God wants us to have. Notice what Jesus says in the book of Colossians. And he is talking to us and he is trying to tell us as Christians what our conversation should be like and how we should always watch what we say when we are around people, how we should always watch what we say when we are around non-Christians. And it's very important, okay? In Colossians, let me find the exact verse. I don't have to turn all day. Colossians chapter 4, I'm already here. Watch this right here. Let your speech always be with grace, seasoned with salt, that you may know how you ought to answer each one. As Christians, God expects our speech to be seasoned when we talk. He expects us to bring healing to a conversation and not division to a conversation. When we speak as Christians, God expects us not to divide white from black. God expects us to have a conversation that's decent, that's filled with healing, where we can bring each other together, where we can have a conversation about each other and talk about individuals rather than talking about races. But that's not what the politicians want. But that's not what the media wants. But that's not what some of these so-called civil rights leaders want. Why? Because they line their pockets with the fact that you and I can stay divided. Y'all, Jesus came to unite us. Satan came to divide us. We have got to stop falling prey to this tactic of Satan to keep us divided. There's a lot of evil in our world, y'all. There are some evil white people in this world. There are some evil black people in this world. There are some evil police officers in this world. there are some evil citizens of our country. There are evil politicians. There are evil media. There are evil civil rights leaders. There are evil church people. Evil abounds, and it knows no color. And if we are going to be effective at defeating evil, then children of God must rise up together and unite and attack the evil that's plaguing our society, and stop falling prey to the tactics of Satan. I'm going to close it out by addressing what I think the problem is in the church and Christians as to why we fall, why we fall in this. That's right, Alan, rise up. Why we fall into this trap. And I think as Christians, and I don't care what church you go to, I'm talking to you too, me and you. As Christians, we have allowed the world to enter the church rather than taking the church into the world. We have allowed the culture of society to infiltrate our churches rather than our churches infiltrating our society. We have allowed the thinking of those in the world to enter the church rather than the thinking of God to enter those in the world. Okay, thank you for that, Cindy. Cindy said the guy that's in South Carolina, the officer in South Carolina pled guilty, and I think he should have pled guilty because that was pretty clear as to what he did. Thank you for the information, Cindy. But we have allowed the church, and I don't know now I don't know all the reasons for why we have allowed the church to adapt to the world rather than getting the world to adapt to the church. But maybe it's because we don't want to lose membership. Maybe it's because we don't want to lose friends, or we don't want to offend anyone, or we don't want to lose that position that we have among our friends, or whatever. I don't know what it is, but we have allowed the thinking of the world to come into the church. And it has affected our outlook on life. It's affected our outlook on life. And it's sad. And I'm gonna tell you something. If you want a cause to fight for in America, if you want a cause to fight for in America, don't let your cause be racism. Do not try and get behind the cause. It's so stupid. It gets on my nerve. I'm telling you. So don't let your cause be every time something happens between white people and black people that's your cause. That shouldn't be your cause. Your cause should be trying to figure out how not to let the next generation get there. Let me show you something. Let me give you an example. This is practical. Let's assume every week you find an incident where a white person does something to a black person because they don't like black people. Let's assume for the next however many weeks we got in this year, you're able to find an example of that online and you post it to your Facebook page. Okay? What you accomplishing? I know one thing you're accomplishing, division. But what else are you accomplishing? Do you think that you're bringing attention? You're not bringing attention to nothing. Everybody should know that there are people in this world that don't like each other. So what are you accomplishing? My next question is this right here. How do you solve the problem? You see, it's easy to identify a problem, but it's harder to figure out how to solve the problem. How do we solve the problem of racism in our country, y'all? Number one, you'll never eradicate it because as long as this world exists, sin will exist. Racism happens to be one of those sins. Number two, you can't minimize it by how you do it. Well, you don't do it by Facebook posts. You don't do it by talking about it. You do it by trying to figure out where the root cause is. And once you figure out what the root cause is, you try to do something to alleviate the root cause. And I'm telling you, the root cause is the home. Root cause is the home. So my question to you is this right here. What are you going to do in the community to help bring blacks and whites together? What are you going to do in communities to help strengthen homes? What are you going to do in the communities to make sure that the next generation coming won't think like whatever this generation is thinking like? What are you going to do productive? What are you going to do proactive? Or are you just going to sit around all day and point it out? What are you going to do? You know what? I don't have my head on no rock. I'm not blinded. I'm not naive. I know there's evil in this world. And I know that there are white people that don't like black people. And I know that there are black people that don't like white people. And I know that there are Americans that don't like Mexicans or Russians. And I know that there are Chinese that don't like Americans. I know that there are rich people that don't like poor people. I know that there are poor people that don't like rich people. I know there are city folks that don't like country folks and country folks that don't like city folks. I know that there are people who eat chitlins that don't like people who eat steak. And I know there are people who like steak that don't like people who eat chitlins. I understand that. But what does it have to do with it, y'all? What does it have to do with it? How do we get beyond it is the key for healing our society. See, the challenge is not identifying the wrong. The challenge is trying to help fix the wrong. How do we do it? There's no law going to do it, I can tell you that. It's going to have to be done in our communities. The healing must begin in our homes in order for us to see it in our communities. Well, y'all, that's all I have for us today. I said to get that off my chest because bothers me when people try to divide us. People all over the world join hands. Start a love train. Thank y'all. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. We're in this fight together. We can either unite and live together, and or we can be divided and destroy each other. And even those I'm friends with that I disagree with on some things, I still pray that I approach you in a Christian way. I pray that I talk to you in a Christian way. It's always my prayer. Roll Tide, y'all. Roll Tide, Alan. Y'all have a great day. All right, sister. Take care.